Ontario Sports Minister has suggested that if the Ontario Hockey League is going to come back and play this year, it probably will have to do so without body checking or really body contact. Really? Let's dive down that rabbit hole. Rick ZAMPERIN, host of the post-game show on 900 CHML when the Bulldogs play, a guy who watches an awful lot of junior hockey to fulfill that role. On a scale of 1 to 10, I would suggest this concept of no body contact in the OHL would be a 12 on the insanity scale. Convince me I'm wrong.
I can't convince you because this is the most idiotic thing I've ever heard. The minister is coming from a good place in terms of, wanting to have the OHL play as safely as it can, but this utterly changes the face of the game. You cannot play the game of hockey without some kind of body contact, without some players, jostling for the puck in the corner or, trying to body the guy off the puck. Or fighting for a loose puck in front of the net, or the goalie diving on the puck and guys trying to get it at face-offs. You can't do that either. This is a horrible, horrible idea.
Steve?
Admittedly, I don't think that you could probably pull it off. I just don't. So that tells me maybe they don't play. And it depends on, there's a lot of reasons they would probably do this in that when they did it in the NHL, of course, they had a bubble and they had testing. And that I'm not sure that the OHL could afford that.
No, it couldn't. No way.
And there's just no way, you can't bubble them. I think that may just be the reality of where we're at right now. I mean, I think a lot of the women's players I saw argued on social media, we're doing that already, but they allow people to ride the puck. People off the puck into the boards and that kind of thing. And I think there's a reality to this.
Bubba, is this the government saying we don't want you to play because of fears, but we don't want to be the bad guys to say you can't play, so we'll create a scenario where it just becomes impossible to do it, and we'll let you be the one to say we're not going to play?
That's a great question that you throw to me there, because I like, why don't you just stop being a fool? Like, don't say what you said. Like, I mean, that's insulting, right? This is the best junior hockey in the world, right? I mean, Canadian junior hockey, the OHL, better than the NCAA, better than anything that you're playing. One step away from the National Hockey League. We just went through the draft, right? You cannot do this. This is insulting. And if you're concerned about the numbers of what's rising with the coronavirus and numbers here in Ontario, just say it. Just say, look, we cannot allow junior hockey to be played right now. Put on your big boy or big girl pants and just say that. This is the same woman. I mean, I'm worrying about the reputation here of our sport minister right now, and Lisa McLeod. She's got loose lips, right? This is the same woman that went on TSN Ottawa just before the season, before baseball season began, and said, and I used the clip on CHCH because at the time what she said was, guys, she told Ian Mendez, an afternoon show on that station, I've got a big scoop for you guys. We're gonna allow hockey or baseball to be played in Toronto. And it turned out 2 days later, the federal government said, we don't know what she's talking about. And it never did happen, right? So this is a woman, I don't know that I'm going to question her credibility. So until the Ontario Hockey League, until David Branch tells me anything, or at least the premier, I'm not listening to her.
I just don't understand the concept. And I'm not trying to be obtuse. And I mean, to Rick's point, picture a game of hockey right now. How do you play without contact? I mean, even women, we don't have body checking in women's hockey, but there's a ton of contact. And if, a guy coming in on a defenseman, the defenseman is taught, ride him into the corner. You don't have to crush him, but you just get in his way. If you go into the corner and battle for a puck, there's contact. It's not so much the idea that, this will change the game. It would. I don't understand how you play the game without contact. It just doesn't seem like it's even feasible. I mean, even House League has contact. I just think it's a throwaway line that, as I said, I believe it's them letting the OHL be the bad guy to cancel rather than them.
I think so too. And, this is like saying, you can't play or you can play football. It literally changes how the sport is played. With hockey, you just can't do that because the goal of the game is not to obstruct the other opponent. It's to put the puck in the net. But in doing so, you do have to obstruct the opponent in certain cases, or get the puck off him by using your physical nature. But I think you raise a good point. This is the government, I think, kind of setting the foundation for the OHL to say, to be the deliverer of bad news, to say, if the government's not supportive of incremental contact in our game, we simply can't play our game. And another reason why the bubble wouldn't work is, a lot of these kids are still in school. So you can't take them out of school and put them in a bubble in one city because they'd have to go to school there, and that might not be the best situation.
Well, they can't even bubble them in the place that they're in. And I think just cost. Even if you said, well, we'll bubble at say all the Hamilton players that bubble in Hamilton, I just don't see how that would work. I think Lisa McLeod has spoken sort of a step ahead of a number of things already. I think I'd agree with you with that Bubba, on that. That said, it's not going to be Dave Branch that makes this decision whether there's going to be hitting or not. It's going to be the Ministry of Health. And they're dealing with a number of jurisdictions here because it's a lot different between, say, what's happening in North Bay and what's happening in Mississauga. And so there's going to be some interesting. That did come up. I was listening to the ministers' conference. It did come up, the sort of regionalization that Ottawa and Mississauga are the two sort of teams that face at the very moment. They're in red. They're what would be, if this was Quebec, they'd be red zones. And so I don't know. I wasn't saying that you should play. I'm just saying that maybe you probably wouldn't play under those circumstances because as you guys are saying, it doesn't resemble anything. That said, what do you do about the kids that are in their last year? What do you do about the kids in the first year? This is 1/3 of basically a career is 3 years. Where does this all sit?
Well, what do you do with other sports, Steve? I mean, look, other than say golf or tennis, or a few other sports where you are at you're far apart from anyone else by definition, every sport has contact. Every single sport, every team sport, whether it's kids or some higher level, if this is the rule, then I would say that until COVID is gone, all sports.
Well, I think you're probably going to see that. I mean, at the same time, it was a bit confusing because they did talk about hockey coming back in minor hockey. But that's basically on the same way the Huskies are doing it right now, right? Which is they're not really scrimmaging, right? They're doing practice drills and those kinds of things. And I think that's probably what will happen. I think what we're looking at here is a reality of the second wave. There's probably no use.
Guys, I mean, sorry. I mean, why we're even considering this is silly to me. All right. Like, you can't play hockey the way without contact. It's not going to happen. You're talking about men.
Well, that's what I'm saying, Bob. I don't think they're going to play.
They're 13. There's been contact since they're about 12 to 13 years old. This is not women's hockey that has no contact. These guys cannot go back. This is not the level of hockey that NHL scouts will be able to evaluate talent. None of this can happen. The OHL cannot play. They will not play.
That's what I'm saying.
You have teams in Erie, Flint, and Saginaw. Where are they going to stay? Where are they going to stay? We've already heard some numbers that Elliot Friedman of Sportsnet have leaked out some numbers that the bubble concept in two cities, Edmonton and Toronto, cost the National Hockey League anywhere between $75 and $80 million. And the NBA, that number is about $150 million. The OHL cannot afford to have a hub city concept. There's no possible way that this can happen. And on top of that, too, instead, remember, I think one of the wonderful things about junior hockey, and especially right here in the Ontario Hockey League and in Hamilton area, are the billets. You would have to have these players no longer with billets. They would have to be staying at hotels. That cost is too high for the Ontario Hockey League. There will be no junior hockey this year.
That's what I said. Right from the top, they can't do it.
Rick, I want you to jump in here, Rick, but just one point that Bubba made, and when at the start of that, Bubba, you said, I mean, even women's hockey doesn't have contact. It doesn't have body checking, but it has a ton of contact. And that again goes to my point, is that this is This is not simply about saying you can't bash a guy into the boards. You know, in Quebec, they recently got a bailout from the government on the condition that you stiffen the rules about fighting. And that was the government trying to, I guess, flex its muscles and change the game. This is, I don't think about just changing the game and taking out body checking. You can't in an enclosed space play the game without some kind of contact. It's just, it's just impossible.
You know what? You don't even need contact, really. I mean, just think of the face-off circle, whether it's the opening face-off or to the left or right of the goalie or outside the blue lines. You're right there. So, and you know, you're not going to be able to wear a mask because you're breathing hard. You know, you're in a minute shift and you're going all out. It's virtually impossible, contact or not, to physically separate in the game of hockey. I mean, you can't do it in basketball, can't do it in football. Baseball's the same. You know, when you're in the batter's box, yeah, you're able to wear a mask, but if you're at first base and the first baseman's covering you, you know, you're right there. So this is a no-win situation.
Is there a compromise here technologically? Is there something that can be done with the masks?
That's what I was just going to say. Could you say instead of visor or instead of even a cage, if every player wore the fishbowl?
Yeah.
They don't like it because it's hot and you can't breathe as easily and stuff. But look, the option of either play or don't play with a fishbowl or don't play at all.
Not happening.
That would do it, but it's
well, hold on. Okay,
hard.
So say every player wears these fishbowl helmets, all right? There are still other things here. We're not talking about, okay, again, I'll use the National Hockey League as the example, where we had Scotiabank Arena and we had Rogers Place at Edmonton. Again, I will go to cost. Remember, outside of the contact and the actual playing of the game, there are auxiliary things that need to happen to be safe, right? How about the sanitization that went on between every single period in those bubbles for the National Hockey League? That is at a huge cost. We're talking about big, beautiful arenas. We're not talking about some dingy little rinks in Huntsville or Peterborough or Kingston, right? You know how much it costs to clean those facilities? And they would have to happen in between every period. And talk about the dressing rooms. Again, not at National Hockey League level. It cannot be done.
The people in Peterborough and Kingston will be thrilled to know their arenas are dingy.
Oh, sorry. I've been to the K-Rock Center.
In
comparison to the NHL, yes, I get it.
No offense to the K-Rock Center down there. No offense.
Look, I have to believe that there's one of two things that come down the pipe from this, and one of those options is not playing as Lisa McLeod describes. It's either there is no hockey, or there is some kind of slighter adjustment than this, where we say, okay, you can't fight. Although I'm not exactly sure that fighting is working.
I'm going to stop fighting.
I'm throwing out things that, you know, you make a very modest. So there's either nothing or there's a very modest change that somehow satisfies them, with the condition probably that says, look, if you have an outbreak, everything has to stop. But I don't see any possibility that the description that we've got here happens. I just don't.
Well, the queue is finding out prety quickly that, you know, and it's running rampant in a couple of teams already, and that season has just begun. You know, it's a couple of weeks old. As I said, I mean, this is an unstoppable virus. It does not, you know, pick and choose who it wants to infect. Body contact or not, body checking or not, it's going to, you know, go around the league. There's really there isn't a silver bullet or a magic pill that players can take or the league can do to stop this virus from getting into arenas, because these players, these coaches are in the community as well. Yeah.
Well, it's we're going to see. I find it very hard to believe that David Branch or the owners or the players or the agents for the players or the NHL or all the people who have a vested interest in this are going to just sit back and say, that's fine, whatever, no hitting. Go ahead, Bob. There's going to be tons of discussion on this.
Rick brings up a great point there, because everyone, the Dub and the Ontario Hockey League, and of course the Canadian government, have to be watching what's going on with the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League. 2 games have been played over the weekend, okay? And you have Blainville with 18 positive tests. And then you have Sherbrooke, the team they played, with 8. You also have the Quebec Rempart right now, where the virus is at an all-time high right now. That's located in what the Quebec are labeled a red zone. they can't play games there. This league cannot. I mean, I have no idea what the commissioner is going to do here in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League. They took the chance. They started way ahead of what the projected December 1st date was for the Ontario Hockey League. So to me, they're watching this right now, all leagues around the country, and saying, not going to work.
Yeah, and we don't want to look. If it sounds like it, we're not dismissing the virus or saying, "Oh, go ahead and play and don't worry about it. Go, everybody get it." That's not the case either. It's just you're talking about can you play a game in a way that's never been played at a high level, and I think the answer that we all agree on is no, and we got to go. But one other thing to contemplate that we won't get into right now, because let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. But if this is the case right now and we're into this second wave, what happens as the year rolls into next year, you've got the CEBL, the basketball league, that will come back again, and you've got the CFL, and you've got the soccer leagues, and you know, suddenly now if it can't work in hockey, what else can't work? Well,
time is a big factor there, the way this thing moves.
Time is a big factor.
And so does the research. You know, and there's the unspoken hope here among a lot of people is that the vaccines are available soon to some degree. Soon. I don't mean that tomorrow, next week, or even by the end of the year, but at some point in there. That is sort of the thing. And our knowledge of this is, and therefore what we do to protect against it has been evolving over time. And that's why it's not the same as it was 6 months ago, what we do. And the same thing with the actual medical part of it. So I think a lot of it's going to be deciding, and that's why they're doing these things in 28-day periods, I think. See what happens over that 28 days. And then the next 28 days, then the next 28 days.
We will see what the next, I was going to say the next shoe is to drop. The next skate is to drop on this one. I'm positive that this is not where this story ends. We'll be keeping up on it. Thanks for watching. Subscribe down below, hit notifications so you get these videos when we do them, which is regularly. We'd love you to follow along. Thanks for watching. Have a great one.